The president of the Universities of Wisconsin says he's been told to quit or be fired. However, he is refusing to step down. In a letter obtained by AP News, Jay Rothman, president of the university system since 2022, says he was informed an unidentified majority of regents had lost confidence in his leadership and the board is prepared to terminate his employment. He says they've given him no specific reason or any misconduct charges. The regents held a closed emergency meeting on Wednesday night on those personnel matters. The board president would only say the board is discussing the system future and doesn't comment on personnel. Rothman says he does not believe his resignation is in the best interest of the UW system.